Awesome, thank you. So again, make sure that you grab the the handout files from the File tab, and also keep yourselves on mute until breakout activities. Thank you, that'll help us with logistics here. We're gonna start off this session with the assumption and knowledge that gender is a spectrum. We're not really gonna be going through a lot of basics getting up to that point. If you are looking for more of those basics, I highly recommend Kate and Sarah's gender spectrum session yesterday. That was amazing. So that has a lot more of those basics. We're going to go through a little bit just to make sure everybody's on the same page. But this is really more for taking that knowledge and then moving forward and starting to implement that into companies or your groups. So just wanted to make sure that that was outlined from the get-go. We're going to use the chat within this more for connecting with each other. If you have questions, we'll ask that you actually go back to the Pathable page and drop those in the poll section in the questions to presenters. That'll really help us make sure that we get to see them. We'll try to keep an eye on that, but that will be really, really helpful if you have a question that you want to make sure gets answered. We're going to have a really engaged session today. We're really hoping that all of you are completely involved in this and participate in your breakout sessions. We're going to have 2 of those where we're going to ask you to actually connect and share what you're brainstorming with other people. So good to be kind of keeping notes on some of those things. Those handouts from the File tab and the Pathable page will really help with that. And we also would really like to start with a request. If you can all go to your image, like either where you have your video going or just your section there, and go rename yourself if you don't have your name on there, but then actually add your pronouns. So if you go to those 3 little dots, you can click on those and hit rename. That rename might pop up elsewhere for you. If you have 2 monitors going, it might go to a different monitor. It did that to me yesterday. If you can just toss your pronouns in there, that's going to be really helpful and is a huge part of what we're going to be talking about today. So thank you all so much. Okay, so we're going to now introduce ourselves properly. My name is Kelsey Burkham. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work for HP. Pedro and I both work for HP. I work in the corporate real estate group in internal communications. So I do a lot of work with strategic and change management communications. So you'll maybe, especially if you work in that area, you may see some of those best practices thread their way into this, because that is how my brain works, and it's what informs a lot of this work here that we're talking about today. Pedro, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Pedro. My pronouns are they, them, theirs in English, or ele, ele in Portuguese for Brazilian and Portuguese people. I also work at HP. I work for HP now for about 2 years. It's my first job. And I'm a data engineer. I work in an R&D side, so I have a more technical work than Kelsey's, and I work for the personal systems software at HP. And I'm also a member of the HP Pride Leadership here in Brazil.
Yeah, that's true. And I did not mention I'm in the Pride Leadership in Corvallis, Oregon. So that's our that's really more of a professional introduction, but we also we wanted to do a little bit of an introduction that feels a little bit more us. So we don't get to see you all in person, and we also don't get to be at gala. So here are some glam photos for you all. And then also some of my passions outside of work, or that I sometimes bring into work, is really huge into fashion and makeup, but we're also both cosplayers, and that's a really huge thing too. Really love being able to express ourselves fully, and want everybody else to be able to express themselves fully, even if that is at work, and especially if that is at work.
Yeah.
So Pedro, walk us through what we're going to go over today.
Yeah, so this is our agenda for today. We go first through some non-binary basics and what has gotten us here as a company on doing work towards non-binary inclusion. Then we were going to share some corporate non-binary inclusion strategic work with a framework that we had this year working towards this. And then interspersed with expanding on the framework steps, we'll have 2 breakout activities that Kelsey told before for you to start building your own planning and approach for this. So after that, you have a chance to discuss with each other in the breakouts, and then we will come back together and open up for key learnings and questions each of you may have. Yeah, so here's some logistics and some agreements that we may have with this session. Throughout the session, you can drop your questions in the poll on the session page during our presentation and the Pathable. So, or ask them live after the breakout activities, so because we'll have some time to that. Also, feel free to use the chat during our presentation. You're pretty able to do that right now. So we also have made available handouts, so you can keep reference of our presentation while we're doing that. So please refer to them for activities, for the breakout activities that we're going to have, as they have guidelines for them. Remembering that the session is being recorded again for future use of the summit attendees, like every other session this year. And this is still a safe space. It's a safe space. So please be respectful to others' experiences and only share stories that you have permission to share. So starting with some non-binary basics. Getting everyone on the same page. So for those that are not as familiar with the term non-binary, this term is used by some or many to describe people whose gender is not exclusively male or female, including those who identify as having no gender, a gender other than male or female, or more than one gender. Some non-binary individuals regularly encounter circumstances that invalidate their very identity and existence in the daily basis. Some of these experiences many people don't realize are damaging for these people. Whether it's filling out forms with labels that do not include who they are, or having to walk through doors with signs that feel wrong, all of these everyday choices remind non-binary people that the world is not creating space for them, and this can be incredibly difficult. For some, it can be especially difficult when new people they are meeting assume their gender based on appearance and misgender them by referring to them as a male or female when they feel neither is correct. Imagine you are meeting someone new or joining a meeting, and how uncomfortable it would be to have people refer to you as the wrong gender. This happens to non-binary people all the time. So every day we have a chance to help create an inclusive space through language. The language we use in documents, memos, or that executives and leadership use in verbal or written communications, they also have the power to invalidate identities or to drive an inclusive where all feel welcome and seen. Here are some examples of common English pronouns to be used when talking to or about non-binary people. If you're not sure about which pronoun to use, it's a good thing to ask beforehand. So here we have they, them, theirs, and also there's options like ze, zers. So if you don't know which pronoun to use, just ask them. This change is happening all over the world. In many different languages, not just in English or in Brazilian Portuguese. Advancements in inclusive language for non-binary gender are happening because there are so many differences across languages and cultures. The approaches and adoption is varied between them. Gender neutrality is inherently easier in languages that are already less gendered, like English, whereas highly gendered languages such as Russian are much more difficult to adapt within. Even in languages where there is a gender-neutral pronoun or less gender language, as we discussed, the phrases we use or the words that we have can still limit us. Identifying words such as family relations and prefixes are some of the hardest ones since most are very tied to gender. Examples of advancements in different languages are with English, that we use the pronoun
Oh,
as an easy solution. In many other languages, gender pronoun options have been created and are gaining popularity. In Swedish, we have the hen that was introduced inspired by the Finnish gender neutral han. In Spanish, we have ella, that is being increasingly used in Spain and Latin America, and American Spanish speakers often use the suffix x in placement of the traditional a or o, indicating feminine or masculine words, like Latinx. And in Brazilian Portuguese, there is a similar approach to the Spanish one, with elu being slowly introduced as a gender-neutral option. We also had some sessions this year in the Alto Nico Summit that talks a little much more about this, so you should go and take a look. I can't remember right now what's the name of it, but I'll go just pick up that and put it in the chat afterwards. There is more happening and more to come. So this is examples, sorry, are just a small portion of the change and inclusion efforts that are happening around the globe. And as awareness and understanding grows, we will definitely be seeing even more. So Kelsey, you now show you some data about the non-binary people in the US.
yeah, so as Pedro mentioned, this is largely US data. I guess it is US data, and that is largely because it's very, very difficult to find data currently that goes beyond the US. If anybody has any, please reach out to us and let us know, because I have been searching for it, would love to get current data from outside of the US, so please connect. But when we're looking at things, while we may only have kind of data from the US, non-binary identities have been around for a really long time. And this isn't a new conversation for many cultures. It's just really a new conversation in more kind of Western or dominant cultures. And so that's definitely something to kind of keep in mind, and that really can help drive this more of a reawakening rather than an introduction of identities. And like I mentioned, we have limited data, so when we're looking at some of the best data we have, it's actually from the transgender survey from 2015. And from that survey, so this is folks who identify as transgender who were surveyed, but looking at the different generations and this trend through the generations. So, and I believe we have this in the handout, so I don't think you have to grab too much from it. But we're looking at the newer generations of folks really identifying more as non-binary. And this is something that, you know, when you look back to those who in 2015 were 65 and over, of the respondents in that survey who identified as non-binary, only 1% were in that group, right? So there's a really strong trend leaning toward younger folks identifying this way. And we see that in a lot of other places as well. But then that same survey, 86% of those respondents who identify as non-binary also said that they don't usually disclose this because that they don't feel that people will understand. And so that understanding and lack of awareness is such a huge barrier to people feeling seen and understood. There's not really, you know, more and more so we're starting to see, but there's not a lot of role models out there. There's not a lot of visibility out there. There's not, you know, characters in TV shows that we're really seeing. And so people don't even understand the term non-binary or other gender identities that people may have. But in speaking to this trend, right, in this younger groups, we found that from, I believe this is the GLAAD survey. Yeah, it's the GLAAD survey. So 12% of millennials identify as transgender or non-binary. It's a pretty large number. And just important to note, millennials make up currently a third of the US workforce, right? So, and when you're talking about especially this group and then younger, whether folks are transgender or non-binary or not, they still care very strongly about their friends who are. So really, really huge there. And then also from a or more recent survey here, then this one is, sorry, just let me double check. I want to make sure I get this one right. So this is from the Trevor Project. 25% of US LGBTQ plus youth, so that's 13 to 24. And this is a 2018 or 2020 survey? No, 2020. Use gender neutral pronouns or multiple pronouns. So that's huge, right? We're really looking at this becoming normalized, but we gotta do some work to get other generations to that place. Gen Zs have got it on lock. They understand it. It's really the older generations that we're looking at here. And like I mentioned, it's not just people who are transgender or non-binary, it's people who know and love non-binary and transgender folks. 18% of US adults say that they personally know someone who uses gender neutral pronouns, right? And that number is just gonna keep climbing. So it's really important that we're creating inclusive workplaces for people who are who identify as non-binary, and for them, but also for the people that care about them. And it's also important to note that creating inclusive work environments for non-binary and trans identities, that work creates inclusive spaces for so many more people, right? When you're creating these spaces, the benefits are felt by more than just this target community. And Pedro is going to talk a little bit more about experience because that goes a bit beyond data.
Yeah, so data is important, but experience is even more powerful. Every person's life is different, and the way people identify and express themselves in the world is unique to their experiences. So it is important to understand trends while listening and being open to accepting each person for their true self. It is also important to understand that what makes each person feel included, respected, and seen. One of the key ways that people can respect those who are non-binary is to use the pronouns they feel best represent their true self. Here you can see some people that you might know. Sam Smith is a Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and they recently publicly asked people to use they, them pronouns when referring to them and expressed what non-binary meant to them by saying that non-binary or genderqueer is that you do not identify with a gender. You are a mixture of all the different things. You are your own special creation. Sam is one of the celebrities who are starting to come forward to create visibility and set examples in the public sphere. Other person is Danny Inman. They are one of the many GLAAD campus ambassadors blazing an inclusive future through advocacy and awareness, and shares that being non-binary means they can be their most authentic self. They never felt more like themselves than when they came out as non-binary. Being non-binary means they get to be free. Also, I'm going to talk about a little of my experience as a Brazilian kid growing up and finding out that I'm non-binary. When I talked about myself and recently when telling people and doing work with the local pride here in Brazil, I felt that something was wrong when referring to myself as a man, or even when I told referring myself as a gay man. I felt that in the guts that was a kind of a lie, and then I started to reflect with myself on even if I felt like a woman or a man or a gay person, and the answer would be none of that. I just feel like I have masculinities and femininities in myself, and I accept both of them, and I'm comfortable with my body and my expressions, but I don't feel like I am truly a man nor a woman. So And as I express myself, wearing makeup sometimes and polishing my nails and having my hair big, sometimes I went to some things that were kind of uncomfortable, like walking on the street and then hearing someone behind my back saying, "What is that? Is that a man or a woman?" And and then thinking that um, I don't really felt like I wanted to care so much, and I just wanted to give them the middle finger and say that I don't care. But as I'm telling you this, I can see, you can see that this is a memory that is going to stick to me for the rest of my life. And it's something that I don't want anyone to go through, right? So just the language that you use to refer to people, even if you're not trying to hurt someone, maybe you're going to mark that person even if you don't want to. So being able to express this identity and one identity that feels true and reflective of myself is important and impactful, not just for me, but for everybody that feels the same. And even if people identify with this truth like me, we may not feel that we can share it to people because people may not understand. And the language that we use can be unintentionally explosive. Or the workplace and norms, as we said before, within it are highly gendered or unsafe for us. So you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So what has gotten us here as a company? Yeah, given the fact that 91% of Fortune 500 companies include sexual orientation in their non-discrimination policies, and 83% include gender identity as well. Progress has been building in recent decades, but we haven't moved it far enough yet. Dina Fidas, Managing Director of Global Stakeholder Engagement for Out and Equal, has spoken to the fact that it has taken nearly 8 years of training, best practice sharing, dialogue, and education to get almost 2/3 of Fortune 500 companies to provide coverage for people going through a gender transition. And this is just a baseline for those who need to feel seen and supported. The current policies are not enough. Sometimes these policies protect transgender employees. However, often they continue to operate within the assume a gender binary or focus on women when we talk about gender inclusiveness. They also do little to actively drive an inclusive culture. From a corporate risk standpoint, this slow progress is not without consequence. One example is a transgender former Nike contractor is currently seeking more than $1 million in damages for gender identity-based harassment. So, if approaches and policies do not improve, there are large consequences for both employers and their employees. Gen Z is starting to enter the workforce, and legacy brands that fail to adapt will also fail to recruit the youngest generation in the workplace, leaving some to modernize while others just fall further behind. From a human standpoint, the consequence is even greater, because the LGBTQ population in general is subject to higher rates of violence, harassment, mental illness, homelessness, unemployment, and other things. The stats get even worse when you focus just on the transgender and non-binary communities. And in the Fortune 500, a number of companies have adopted policies, tools, and platforms in recent years to accommodate non-binary individuals. Some examples are IBM that published a white paper on gender transition in a global workplace, which functions as best practice guide for companies to help their transition employees. Goldman Sachs coaches all employees to share their pronouns and encourages them to add a detail in the employee directory. T-Mobile has added pronouns to retail employees' name tags to help broach the subject with customers and colleagues alike. And Virgin has penned multiple pieces on non-binary inclusion, bylined by its founder, Richard Branson. We are moving beyond traditional policies, recognizing same-sex relationships and providing benefits. While this is still important, it is now the baseline in our efforts to be more progressive and inclusive. This shift in both culture and approach is acknowledgement of the diversity of identity and society establishing new forms. Efforts must now focus on awareness building and breaking down assumptions. So, Kelsey?
Yeah, so with that in mind, we're going to really take that and go into our strategic framework that's going to guide the rest of our session today and the breakout activities as well. So when we're looking at this, it really is about awareness building. It's about education and getting people to understand the full range of what gender can really mean, and to make sure that we have people understanding how they are affecting those that they're misgendering and how important that is to get that right. So we're starting here with, these are basically kind of the steps along the strategic framework. So starting with exploring and auditing, this is really about gathering information or getting a really solid understanding about where your company is at, where your audience is at, and what has led to where you are now, and so that can inform how you're able to then speak and where you're going to be able to reach them. Then mapping your path. This is really about mapping the stakeholders that you have, as well as the different activities that you may want to get done, so that you have a good understanding of all of it and who needs to be in your court with you. Then in updating tools, this is working with those stakeholders and these different areas that you've mapped out to then drive updates or launches of internal tools that will enable change and adoption of inclusive behavior, because those are so important. Then moving into building awareness. So once you've gotten some of the groundwork laid and you have a really good understanding of how to approach your audience, this is about getting that information in front of people and testing and refining. This might be with pilot audiences or initial audiences that would be best to give you feedback or help you understand how to move forward with different audiences in your company or in your group. Then it's really about launching. We are really focusing on trainings. That's usually kind of the best way to go about that. But if you have other ideas, that can be really great too. But it's about launching that initial awareness training, and then focusing more so on individual contributors at large, just to get kind of that grassroots movement of understanding. Then moving to training leadership. And getting people and those levels, would be that management or executives, to then be leading by example. What we've been finding in the corporate space, a lot of times, if you're trying to jump straight to leadership, if you can, awesome. But oftentimes there's roadblocks to that. There's a lot of want to know that the company is behind them before they step and they take that risk. So if you're working in the more awareness building first, and then you move to leadership, usually that is a smoother ride. And you can say, look how many people care about this and are excited about this. They've been attending sessions. We really would like you to step up and lead in this space. So having that strategic approach is really important, but it's also really important to keep in mind that integrating and normalizing pronoun usage and gender neutrality into norms and work culture is critical when creating inclusivity, specifically for non-binary and trans identities and their allies. And this includes the workspaces that we're in, right? And so now we're split between both physical and virtual work environments, and that's probably going to continue for a really long time. So keeping both of those in mind and figuring out, well, in your company or in your group, is it more about physical workspaces? Is it more about virtual, or is it both equally? And thinking through different things that you may want to address, be that dress codes, having pronouns displayed visibly in physical form, be name badges or on a wall, like signage for people in the virtual work environments. Including pronoun usage in virtual platforms like we did at the start of this. And again, if you joined later and you weren't able, haven't been able to, if you can add your pronouns onto your name there, that'd be great. Thank you. And then also, there's actually a large piece about this, which is just being seen, right? So connecting with community and validating self-expression. So if you have groups that aren't doing video at all, that can really take away that ability to do self-expression. So maybe something to keep in mind about ways to integrate that back in. It's also really important to build out the right team when you're approaching this, right? So you can have a really great strategy, but if you don't have the people behind you to get that done, then it's going to fall flat, or it's going to take like a really, really long time to do it. So, and especially if you're talking about, corporate spaces, a lot of times the folks doing a lot of the legwork for D&I, it's additional to their day jobs. You've got a lot of ERGs that are doing such amazing work. But knowing that this is often secondary to what their managers are asking them to get done and the priorities that they have, you really want to make sure that especially if you're driving this work, that you have a firm hand in knowing what's going on and how to move these things forward. So really suggesting here that you have a guidance and review group. So that could be diversity leadership. That could be, for us, we have a global pride group. That's really helpful. This could be where any sponsorship that you have for this goes. So just making sure that they're in the loop the whole time and that they know what you're doing, they're behind what you're doing so that they can step in and help drive it forward. Then you've got project management, and this is where I sit in this space for HP, is being the person who's really excited about this. I was inspired from my last Out and Equal, actually, and that's where Pedro and I met. And then since then, we have been working on this together, and I, pulled this together and said, hey, you know what, this is going to happen. We're gonna drive this forward at HP. But I couldn't do it without both that guidance and then also the core team. So we have a core team of people who said, yep, I want to help with this, and then making sure that they know where their best fit is, helping make sure that those people know, hey, this is the best stuff, or what do you want to work on, and making sure that you get the right people working on the right things and in the right little, if it's like sub teams for different work streams or not. So just making sure that you have that framework for your team set up to help drive your strategic framework. So we're going to start breaking out the different steps and going into a little bit more depth so that we're going to do a mix of going through tools or approaches as well as examples from HP. So in looking at exploring and auditing, we're really lucky at HP to have such a strong history from all the way back in 1986 with our LGBTQ+ ERG. We have such a strong history of supporting LGBTQ employees. And so, our first group in 1986, the Gay and Lesbian Employee Network, and that eventually became Pride to be more inclusive. And we've been really strong presences at Pride events globally now, which is amazing. And that's actually me in the giant flower crown there from 2018 with some friends, and then my husband's there on the end. Just so wonderful that we have such strong community. This is the Portland Pride Parade for any of you who are in the Pacific Northwest. And then in 1992, a Safe Space program started in Colorado. Again, that was kind of an ERG movement, and then that grew to cover other sites. And now, starting from 2017, we now have a global ally program that's really strong, and that's been really amazing to see that grow and flourish and get allies on board and visible. We also, have a few other things here. 1996, domestic partner benefits. 2003, gender identity and expression was added to our Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We've had really strong 100% readings with HRC for quite a long time. We take that very seriously, wanting to make sure that we're an employer to look for, that people feel safe when they come to work. Then we also, this year, new, and is where we actually were able to launch because we knew, hey, employees are ready for this. They want to learn more. We've been having a lot more information that we've been sharing about trans identities, and we've been, building out programming. And so for our 2020 Global Virtual Pride Month, which Pedro and I were also very heavily involved with driving that. I did a lot of the comms driving for that, as well as strategy work and getting that coordinated. We had programming for almost the entire month, and actually brought non-binary inclusive language to that. It was available to all employees globally for HP. So those building blocks to get there did take time, right? So if you're at earlier steps, keep that in mind. You may want to make sure that you're working with your teams to get some of those initial steps in place, or just be aware of how you need to frame the conversation so that you can reach people where they're at. Also important to note too, we are looking at a global audience, but also trying to keep in mind local audiences. So knowing that too when you're exploring and auditing, what types of different audiences might you have? Then when you're looking to map your path, this is really about understanding, right? Who you have, what you need to get done. And so these are some tools that you may want to use. If you have other tools or these aren't great for you, that's totally fine. These are approaches that I found useful. So in stakeholder mapping, that's figuring out who is involved, right? So this is organizationally, this is networks that you may have, other Pride people that you may know, be that in your local area, globally. Just a good way to map out how involved might they either need to be or want to be, and then how you may need to make sure to keep them informed. And then affinity mapping, you can use this for all sorts of different things, but what I used this for was to help figure out the work streams that we might have. So we had a lot of ideas and we were brainstorming all of these different things that we wanted to get done. And then we said, okay, but how do you make that a plan? And so I spent an entire day staring basically at a whiteboard where I wrote a bunch of stuff up, and then I grouped those things and then checked that against, with the team to say, hey, does this make sense to you? And we moved a few little things around. But this could look like different tactics. This could look like, different, honestly, even different audiences. You could group different audiences together. Just a really good flexible tool for helping wrap your brain around a lot of disparate pieces. So to take that a little bit further, just wanted to give a little bit more of an example here because we're going to ask you to fill in your own stakeholder map and discuss with each other. So here's an example of what this might look like. And this is a very simplified one, for example, here. But within HP, we had our Global Pride group that wanted to be really super interested, really wanted to be informed, but didn't necessarily need to be doing a ton of the work. And so we, have them really appear on this really interested, still with pretty strong influence. But then we were working really closely with the D&I team, right? So that is kind of more in that high influence area. HR leadership, we needed to be checking in with. They were interested, but weren't on the always need to know every little step, but definitely needed to have them on board to help drive any of these things forward. And then you've got things like the onboarding team, where we were more so just, we're going to be kind of more feeding them information, or say brand team. There was a little bit more back and forth there. So just some examples. And then work streams that we came up with were brand tools, ERG support, leadership support, and new talent inclusion. So that's kind of where our things fit up into.
Okay, so now we're going to do the first breakout activity. Okay, so now we'll give you 5 minutes for your brainstorm a list of key stakeholders that will help you reach your non-binary inclusion goals. Then place them where you think they fit best on your stakeholder map. Please use the handouts we gave you at the Files tab available on the Pathable on our session page, and as that will be a good reference, and you can use the file itself to do your work and then save. After 5 minutes, we're going to have a 10-minute breakout where you're going to be placed with rooms with 4 to 5 people randomly, and for you to discuss your ideas for 10 minutes between yourselves. So if you have any questions, please, you can type on the chat or unmute yourselves and ask them.
And I've been
So
seeing
now,
some, oh yeah, sorry, 1 second,
yeah,
Pedro.
yeah, no,
Been,
no. So yeah, okay, you can say.
sorry, I've been seeing some really awesome conversation in the chat. Sorry, it does go pretty quick and we're pretty focused on the presentation, but amazing things in there. Saw something, oh, somebody is just asking, so the stakeholder mapping, like Pedro mentioned, you can find that in the files so that we don't have to go back on the slides. If you go to the Pathable page, which our session is on, if you go to the File tab, you can download a bunch of handouts that are super useful. And they'll have that information there for you, so you can just actually work off of that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing lots of things here. So I saw some concerns about the data first, so just want to go through that. If anybody has, oh, thank you so much, Elliot. Elliot dropped there the link to the handouts.
Thank you, Elia.
And so yeah, so if anybody has better data, I think I said that at the beginning, but like please send that over. That was the best data that we could find to represent the trends and the stories and it maybe it's a little bit more of an HP thing. We're a very highly technical community, so data is a really big deal. If we don't have it, nobody listens. So
Yeah.
and you may find that in some of your spaces as well. So yeah, please send that over. I also saw some discussion around preferred pronouns versus pronouns. I think that's different in around the globe. For people who where English is not their mother tongue, a lot of times preferred pronouns are still used. So I've kind of waffled a little bit back and forth as far as that being effectively offensive or not.
Yeah.
I try not to use it because I know for some people it is, because it's pronouns, it's what they are, it's their identity. But definitely something to keep in mind that for those who where English isn't their first language, if they are saying that, it's not coming from a place of harm. It's them being really awesome at a language that may not be their first go. So
yeah. So some people asked for us to show the example slide, not the.
Oh, just to go back to the example slide? Yeah, I can go back to the
Yeah.
example slide really quick here. And then Pedro, while I'm doing that, do you want to maybe get the breakouts kind of ready, and then we'll jump to the breakouts so that people can share what they've got with each other.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's been 5 minutes already. I think we have more.
Oh, just a minute or two more. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll sit here for just a little bit here, and then we'll go to breakouts.
Yeah, yeah. Just
a
couple minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for your engaged conversation with each other. Really appreciate it. Also in the handouts is some of our kind of just base information too, so that you'll be able to take that with you kind of beyond the recording. Okay, let's maybe get hopping into those breakouts, and we're really excited for you all to actually get to talk with each other more. It's something that I miss about being in person is those conversations. So we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to do that and foster that conversation between folks. Oh, thanks. It looks like the handouts link was shared again. And then just give us a heads up, Pedro, when
Yeah, I was just seeing if I can. Rebecca asked me to keep keep them out of the breakout rooms, but I can't find this option. So yeah, I'll just launch the breakout room so y'all can discuss for about 10 minutes. So please be aware and give time for everyone to share their ideas and have a voice. So, okay. See you in a few minutes. Okay, so I didn't find an option to leave the breakout rooms myself, so y'all can share and talk and as people will enter, and after time passes, we'll just go back to the main session. If you have any questions, I'll be here.
Weena, are you still in the room?
Hey, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if you're worked on your stakeholder maps. If you want to share something.
Well, so Weena Weena also works for JP Morgan with myself, so we would have similar stakeholders.
Yeah. So yeah, great that you two are together, so you can brainstorm together from your company. That's a coincidence, also.
Yeah, we both work on the same like transgender working group, but I'm unsure if Weena is around because he's muted. Oh, and there he goes.
And he left. Yeah. So do you want me to move you to other rooms so you can share with other people?
I mean, I guess like it keeps saying wait to be assigned to a breakout room, and it just hasn't moved me.
Oh, so this is not a breakout room. Yeah, wait.
Yeah, so I know. It's like I've been in a few sessions with breakout rooms before, and it usually gives me like an option, and it switches me to a breakout room. But like it's just here that says it says the host has opened breakout rooms. Please wait to be assigned.
Yeah, and I can't find the option to assign you. So
it's fine. Weena actually just messaged me. he said he'll be rejoining in just a second. So
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
his audio is
So
freezing.
yeah. So yeah, this is strange. So because for me, the only option here is to close our rooms or broadcast message to people, and when clicking on you, I don't have this option to just put you in some room, and I don't know what to do.
It's okay. It's fine.
And you were on the session before I created the rooms, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been here for the whole thing.
Yeah. This is strange. So.
Technology.
Yeah, I don't know if I put you in the waiting room, we'll do something, but
Honestly, it's fine. It's fine. It's
okay.
We've waited so long at this point. It would be weird for me to just suddenly drop into a room.
Yeah, but it's weird. Yeah. So, yeah, we have 4 minutes. So, hi, Kelsey. Hello, Kelsey.
Hey there.
Hey, so there were some people that didn't get to the breakout rooms. Like Robin was here with me the whole time, and
Oh, hi, Robin.
yeah, and sorry, I don't know your pronouns.
She, her. I didn't have the option to change my name after I had joined the session. So
Okay, yeah. So Robin was with me the whole time, and she doesn't have the option to join any rooms, and I don't have any options to put her in any room.
Well, we love talking with you.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a few people that were rejoining also because they were with me. I thought I was in some breakout room because I mean.
Oh, I got sent to a breakout room. Yeah. So I think we'll have people kind of trickle back here.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but yeah, people are coming back or rejoining. I don't know if they're. Yeah. So.
Yep, I think we'll get some trickling back here. Let me get because I think we're going to have to get the presentation started again. So let me just get that.
Yeah.
Get that up. Okay.
Okay, now someone shows up in the list as not assigned. So I can assign, but now it's only 2 minutes to the end, so I don't think it's relevant anymore. So.
Hopefully when we do the next one that gets ironed out. Is that sharing the right slide?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It is.
Move that forward to this one. Just be on the breakout activity one.
Yeah. So for those who are not in the breakout room, we're just waiting for everybody to finish sharing their brainstorming stakeholders for the stakeholder mapping. Then we can continue with the presentation.
Were some of you able to join the breakouts and just ended up leaving it? If anybody wants to come off mute and let us know.
Yeah.
I mean, I never made it to a breakout room.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
It's okay. These things happen.
Yeah, and it's weird because Jill, that is with us right now, it's their name is on the list for unassigned, but yours, Robin, it's not.
Oh, Zoom.
That's really weird, but whatever.
Yeah. Even Rebecca, the alt and equal staff.
Equal staff.
Yeah, she's in the breakout room.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
got thrown to one, so that was nice to meet folks.
yeah, but it's going to end in 10 seconds, so we can resume the presentation. Everybody after everybody show up. Yeah. So yeah, they have 1 minute to come back.
Hey there, we're getting a few more people coming back. Hopefully you had some good good conversations. We had a few technical difficulties, so sorry for folks that didn't get into the breakout rooms the right way.
Yeah.
But I think in general, most people did. That was awesome. I know I was able to pop into a really good conversation, folks sharing. So as people come back, if there's any questions that people have or things that they want to, discuss a little bit more off of mute while we're waiting for everybody to come back, please just hop up and let us know.
Okay, so now everybody should be back.
Perfect. Yeah, we're getting a whole bunch of numbers happening there. So yeah, so one question that did come in through the Q&A on the Pathable page in that question asking poll piece was about the highly gendered languages. I don't actually know a lot more information on that. That's for me was I know kind of more the English, and then with Pedro being on board, definitely wanting to get more senses of more languages. We are working on that. I'll actually go into a little bit more discussion about kind of how we built out some things around inclusive language. But yeah, if anybody does have more information about other languages where they have specific challenges, you can just drop that in the chat or speak up. Because yeah, when you have really highly gendered languages, it does make it a lot more difficult. You basically have to introduce, as a language has to be introduced, new ways of doing that and new rules. So it can make it really difficult.
Yeah.
I see German, yeah.
Yeah.
German in the chat. And then French.
Yeah. And for Portuguese, I was lucky that I found a huge material with all the grammatical rules for Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese specifically, with the gender neutral options. And it's actually too much. I never got to read all of the rules, but because Portuguese, it's full with gendered words, there must be a new rule for everything that's flexed with gender. So yeah, and this makes the job so much harder than English that some of you may not even comprehend.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons that I don't feel I feel comfortable in Portuguese with the male pronoun because the gender neutral pronoun is still not a fully option. But when people try to use the gender neutral pronoun with me, I feel happy. But I don't get mad if people talk to me with the male pronoun as well. Mm-hmm. I'm used to it.
Yeah, so we just want to take a second here to, if there's any amazing things that people shared in the breakouts that they want to put forward. I know that one thing that came up in the one that I was able to be in for just a little bit was for the stakeholder map of including IT. That was something that I think in our work we should do a little bit more of bringing IT into the fold, because when you're talking about systems, they're definitely folks you want to have on board and helping out there.
Someone said in the chat facilities as well.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Okay. Well, it looks like we'll move forward here. We'll definitely have another chance in our next breakout to connect again. And if anybody has more questions, continue to drop those into the Pathable page. So, okay, so when we're looking at updating tools, right? So that's talking about especially that IT discussion, right? So there's all sorts of different tools that that companies have, right? And especially when you're talking corporate, you know, there's a lot of tools, especially HR tools, that you want to take a look at. A lot of them are highly gendered, and the work environment is really influenced and impacted by the tools that are used. They create, especially the digital environment. And so when you're looking at internal directory systems, onboarding systems, resources that you may have, recruiting tools and approaches, all sorts of forms. I'm sure lots of you know forms. There's gender options in forms all the time, and a lot of times they're very, very sad. So if there's any opportunities for updating those, and especially too when you're thinking back to that language, other is not always a great option, right? Not listed, so providing an additional option, great, but other is inherently othering in the language, so a lot of times it's better to choose or to use not listed instead of other for language in that sense. We've also got here some examples of brand tools, so email signature creator, however that looks for your company, but that was something that was a huge, huge win for our team that we got. We were able to roll that out for Pride Month, working really closely with the brand team and there's an example here of mine down on the bottom, and getting the pronouns in there, and then actually an additional resource that linked to an internal document in the kind of how to use the email signature creator to be able to let people provide additional information to say, hey, you can use this link, go to this page, and this is why pronoun usage is important for HP and our employees. So there's also other things here, different types of templates, request forms for branded items like business cards that people might need to use, social media assets, lots of things to think about here. Then there's also comms tools, right? So when we're talking languages being so important, the tools that people use, and this is coming from my comms space, but so many things are built out for comms tools, and a lot of them continue to reinforce our traditional way of speaking and referring to one another, right? So in writing style guides, memo templates, guides for how to host and use platforms, host meetings and use platforms, team bonding tools, right? There's all sorts of these things of like, hey, managers, here's things you can do with your teams. All sorts of things here, or executive communication guidance, right? Getting executives to think of that when they're going up on stage or recording something. So lots of options here too. These are all just ideas. You may have different things within your company or group, or a lot more, right? This is not extensive. So then in looking at building awareness, I'm going to walk you through an example that using what we have done is a gender inclusive language training. So that's how we really started this. We started rolling this out. And actually one of the reasons I chose gender inclusive language to be the title for this was I wanted people to know that it was for them. Sadly, a lot of times if you toss something in there that's LGBTQ specific, people go, oh, that's for the Pride folks, that's not for me. And that's just not true, right? We want everybody to be part of this, and making sure that people understand gender inclusive language applies to all of the genders, right? It's not just about, oh, hey, we have to make sure that women are represented. And so that's really reframing how people are thinking about gender inclusive language. So what we did here for this training is we focused on tying into the company D&I priorities, right, to get people on board for it, to say, hey, this is part of who we are as a company. This is part of what we do and how we integrate D&I into everything that we do. Pay attention. Then into the context and data showing for really explaining that growing need for change. And so that goes back to the content that we showed earlier. Actually, a lot of that content was leveraged from this work that we had originally done here. So that data, like I was saying, we have a very data reliant, or they want to have that data first, right? They are, to use Tristan Reese's way of talking about it, they're really stuck in that headspace. And so we need to meet them there and then move them past that piece. So get them through with the data and then work into, hey, what can you do about it? So gender inclusive language alternatives. So we had a lot of options like, hey, if you're saying ladies and gentlemen, how about we say, hey, like, hello everyone, right? There's a lot of options to pick where the traditional turn of phrases are gendered, and we can move away from that. There are also a lot of times like where if you're tossing in like his or her, where you could just put their. It's better business English usually. It's cleaner language to remove gender from that, or to make it gender neutral or gender expansive. Then moving to simple calls to action for people. So making sure that they know that there's some things that they can do. So when we had the email signature, well, before we had the email signature tool created, we had the go ahead to let people know that they could do it. So we were already starting to tell people when we were like using this in more kind of the targeted audiences, saying, hey, you can go do this right now. Asking people to put their pronouns in their Zoom profiles, in other platforms. Asking people to practice, right? So being able to practice at home, or, you know, there's kind of, you know, little narratives around people practicing replacing pronouns in books when they're reading to their daughters. And so they take a book and they'll put she instead of, you can also do that with they, right? You can practice at home, practice by yourself, practice with your friends, you know, so that it becomes normal. It's not something that's throwing you and catching you in the moment, or with somebody where it could potentially sting. And then we also shared examples, because this was being shared a lot of times in more kind of local settings. We were also making sure that, or US kind of centric, making sure that people knew that this is happening globally, and that this is a change that's coming in society. So we're going to move to our next breakout activity again. So this one, I'll let Pedro walk through, you know, what this focus is, but excited to do some more talking and brainstorming.
Yeah, so now the brainstorming is for tools and training. As Kelsey showed us an example of how we did it as a company for HP and for actions towards the non-binary inclusion. So now we'll give you 5 minutes. So now it's, I know what time is it right in the US, but we'll give you 5 minutes so you can brainstorm what tools within your company should be updated, and what the trainings that you might need initially to, and which of them would be most effective for your employees and audiences and communities. So after that, we're again are going to a breakout room. For this breakout activity, we also have some space and references in the handouts, so please refer to that. And in 4 minutes, we're going to another 10-minute breakout, so you can share your ideas with other people again. If you have any questions, please say so or type in the chat, and we will address that.
I did see somebody asking for HP's the mission statement for our Pride groups. I don't know if there's any HP folks on. I know we had a few HP folks on the call. I don't know if anybody would be able to maybe go grab that. I don't have it handy. See if we might be able to find that.
I have the one from HP corporate site.
Oh, great! Thank you, Danny.
I think when the person asked, it was when you were showing our training. So maybe it's the first slide that is on the slide with beans, pillars with a big.
Oh, our kind of diversity and inclusion, our pillars. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
speak a little bit to that as people are kind of filling in things. Yeah, so we have, it's
yeah,
belong, innovate, and grow are our kind of big three pillars. So it's really about making sure that people feel that they belong at work and that their whole self can be there, and then that we want them to bring their whole self and identity because it helps us innovate. And that we're always looking to grow and expand our approach to inclusion. And I actually saw a really good note, and this is something that was new to me, so I really appreciate the learning. The shorthand, like the letters N, B, it's actually better to steer away from those when shorthanding non-binary because oftentimes it refers to non-Black. So read ENBY or a few other that's in there is a better shorthand. Thank you for that learning. Really appreciate it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Oh, thank you, Roberto. Really appreciate that. That was our goal. So that Roberta's comment was that this is useful tools to bring back. So that was our goal with this, is that we really wanted to make sure that people felt like coming out of this session that they had gotten some brainstorming done, were able to talk with people also interested in this space, and were able to take tangible things to do or approaches to have to go back to their either companies or groups. So I really, really appreciate that. That was the goal. And if anybody has anything that they'd like to follow up, we're both more than willing to continue this conversation. If you have anything that you have specific challenges with and want to brainstorm, hey, how do we get past this roadblock? We may have come up against it, or we may also have that roadblock and want to figure it out together. So please reach out. Oh, Ladarian, that's wonderful to hear. Glad that this can help your team with your approach.
yeah. Awesome.
Okay, I think we're ready for breakouts maybe?
Yeah, we already
Awesome.
have
Okay, I'm
passed
seeing
the
some
time.
nods. Perfect. So,
Okay.
oh, awesome. Thank you, Jake. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah,
Changing the gender options from other to not listed.
yeah, thank
Way
you.
to go.
Okay, we're going to the breakout rooms again. So see you in 10 minutes. Okay, so you two are not in breakout rooms again.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah,
It just says please wait
just
to be
you.
assigned. Oh well.
Yeah, yeah, and the option just doesn't show for you too. I mean, what happened?
I don't know.
Okay, so here says that Eduardo is on the breakout room 4. So maybe should be an option for you to join the breakout room. I don't know.
It's not showing up.
For
if there is.
Eduardo, yeah. Um, let me see. And for you,
Oh, good gracious.
yeah.
I was in the breakout room, and so I
You
chose to
are?
leave the room. Yeah, I was in a breakout room. Never said that in Zoom before, so.
Yeah, so can you rejoin the breakout room? Because
Not yet. I think someone has to send me there.
yeah, but I don't have the option to do so. I don't know if I can.
I don't see a problem.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I see that you're listed in the options as not joined. But I can't. I can see an option for you to rejoin the room. Maybe if I move you to another room, like, did something showed up?
No.
No, but for Eduardo. Yeah, he went there. Yeah, but your name isn't even listed in the breakout rooms, and I recreated the rooms after.
Huh. Oh well.
Yeah, and some people joined later and got reassigned to some rooms, so I had to reassign them manually. But your name isn't there.
Weird. Very weird.
Yeah,
No
very
idea.
very weird.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Zoom.
if you want to talk about your brainstorming, what you had for your company.
Sure. I mean, so like this has been an ongoing topic with us. We've been discussing a lot what we should do for our internal systems, and there's been a little bit of focus on our external systems as well. Trying to decide, what's the best way to provide pronoun options, what's the best way to provide gender identity options. Actually, using the term "not listed" is a really good term, because we were struggling to be like, okay, if something isn't there, how do they let us know that it needs to be added? And not listed is just the perfect solution. So I'm going to be taking that back right away.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I never thought about it because I mean the other option never heard of me. I just think, okay, it's good that it has a third option. Just the existence of third option is fine, but not listed is it's way much better. Yeah, I never thought about it. Yeah.
I'm actually typing in my group chat with everybody suggestion now.
Yeah. 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 Recently, I got the experience of signing up to a master's degree, and the form to the subscription for the selection process and everything didn't have a third option for gender. Then yeah.
I mean, like, I transitioned like 10 years ago now. It's been a long time. And like, even just 10 years ago, trying to get anything changed in any system was a nightmare by itself. And then you try to ask them for like any other option aside from the ones that they have, and like that's moving heaven and earth.
Yeah.
So now at least they let you change it, but it's still with just the two options, and it's like, no, that's not all that's there.
Yeah, it's not all the way there. Yeah, all the way. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot of good discussions within our company around what it is that we're wanting to do, what it is we're wanting to work on. And I'm actually really, really impressed with our team's work on the matter. They really, really want to, do what's right and work on what's right.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so lucky to work at HP and being able to do all these diversity and inclusion efforts and as a volunteer and have this workplace where I know I can be myself regarding anyone. And and I mean, it's my first job. I got in as an intern when I was in college and went hired right away when I was close to graduating. And since I was an intern, I had this support and to be me and also the people giving me the structure and wanting me to do this work with the pride, and because it's seen as a good thing for the company, right? So and right now I'm the chair of the group after 2 years working for the company. So yeah, it's some skyrocket journey to the place where I am, and it's just shown. But I'm very proud of the work that I'm doing, and I think people are enjoying it and taking a lot of good things from the work that we're doing right now. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, I keep getting pulled into, I took part in a internal initiative a few years ago where they held a focus group with a bunch of trans employees, and ever since then I just keep getting pulled into more and more initiatives around trans folks, and I absolutely love it. So
yeah,
it's
awesome.
great.
Yeah. So Kelsey Robbins again didn't join
again.
me. Yeah, and
Get
her
all
name.
special treatment.
Yeah, and her name doesn't show up in the breakout rooms list.
It's so weird.
Yeah, everyone else.
You're just too special.
Yeah, special. Yeah. So yeah, we have more 10 minutes, then 1 minute for everyone to come back.
Awesome.
10 seconds, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I timed it right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's sharing again, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so people should be coming back right now.
Okay. Yeah, we had some really good discussion in the one that I popped into, so
Nice.
it's nice. Do we have any questions on the... Oh, look, people joining back. Hello. It's so nice seeing everybody's faces. I'm so glad we did this as a meeting format and did the breakouts.
I was not prepared to be on camera, but now that I have, I'm glad.
I love it. So good to see your face.
Yeah.
Right, like I was not expecting you to join me in my living room today.
And somebody was asking on the pathable, the origins of ZZers. I don't actually know. So if anybody knows and wants to drop that in, I mean, I'm sure there's some level of Google searching that can lead to that. But I don't actually know that, and it would be good to learn that one more. And then there was a question about using the presentation to pull for own companies. If you're going to be pulling directly, I'd like to work with you just to make sure that that's the best way to do that. But feel free to use core concepts of this, like as just general best practices. But yeah, it'd be good to just at least reach out to me and let me know how it's being used and where it's being used. Just that way we can make sure that there's no like HP specific anything that's getting so.
Yeah.
yeah, super stoked that people want to take this further, because that's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyone has something amazing to share that you discussed in our breakout rooms?
Oh, there's somebody who shared in the chat the Beyond the Gender Binary book by, I'm going to assume, Alec Vade Menon. Hopefully I said that name kind of close to correct. But yeah, so there's like a book resource there. So wonderful to hear that people are enjoying the breakouts and that this is useful. Okay. If there's anybody that wants to come off mute and share anything, go for it. Otherwise, dropping things into the chat. We'll keep looking at that, especially Pedro, as I move forward with some of this. But looks like.
I think for me, this is Amanda. So I work for Sun Life, and I asked, so thank you for anybody that chimed in on the chat earlier, because you were talking about, you know, the gender designation and forms and things. And so I think that's really where my organization needs to change from a client perspective, and then also an employee perspective. The chat has really kind of alerted me to other not being great. I'm a cis female, so I don't know what that feels like. And so it's great to hear the perspective of the folks in the chat, because I'm definitely bringing this feedback back to my HR. So I think it's very important to understand that other is not the right option. Maybe non-binary, not listed, it seems like, or those are the ones we're leaning towards. So that was a big learning that I've taken away just from the tool updates.
Awesome, great to hear.
So sort of along those lines, one thing that has come up in both of the breakout sessions that I've been in actually is sort of, so I thought it was important that y'all mentioned that that you need data to give to your stakeholders before they will say, okay, cool, this constitutes something that we need to devote time and resources to, right? And
it's hard because there's not a ton out there.
Yeah, totally. And like, but then you like, and that leads to like codification questions of like, okay, cool, well, what is going to be the options and how are we going to codify this so it fits on a spreadsheet and we can actually like derive metrics and things from these data. And wouldn't it be great if you could just believe us that there are trans people?
Right. The entire queer community comes to you and says, this matters.
I would like, it's not a joke. I'm here before you telling you this as a trans person, as a non-binary person, saying like, this is legit, just listen to me and I can tell you where we need to move forward from that. But apparently we need data, so then we have to now we have to decide, okay, cool, is it going to be other, is it going to be trans, is it going to be cis male, cis female, trans woman, trans man, non-binary, gender queer, gender fluid, gender
two-spirit,
flux, agender, two-spirit, or any sort of like specific like cultural term that it could be, and at what point do you say, okay, cool, we're going to have a write-in box for other that's a catch-all? Because at that point, really what you're getting is the data that you need, that is, these are the people who are not cis. And that's really like, if what you need is that raw number to say this constitutes like a need, then really the survey can be as simple as like, I'm cis or I'm not cis, right? And if you need to get more granular than that for your people to get like, deem it worthy to give you resources or what you need to work on it, then like, why do you need to know that?
Yeah, it's always that hard line. Ladarian I think was wanting to speak up.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, just to kind of add off of what William was saying is, then you also come into this, who needs to know what, and so you can, on a form, you can get granular, but then again, we were talking about, well, what do you share with the government, because the government only wants other, so how do you take that and then whatever you export gets, combined and concatenated.
So your systems can all talk to each other.
Yeah. And how do you protect the people? Because at the end of the day, while I am loud and proud of who I am, I also know the time we're in, and it's like, how much information do I want to give, and how do you make people confident in giving that information to even how many of us there are? So
right.
Yeah. Can I make a quick comment about the data? I'm sorry, I realize we're at the and Mark, but I'm just realizing that McKinsey actually has some really good data on this. So for example, one, McKinsey just kind of kicks ass in so many spheres, but they have a lot of data with regards to DEI, and they did publish something. They had a whole series back in June on surveys. McKinsey does a ton of surveys, and one interesting one that's immediately coming to mind is when it comes to recruitment and companies that, in their survey, they said companies that do not have any kind of overt DEI statement, they receive on average 39% less applications.
That's a big one.
And the average is brought down by straight white men. If you look at LGBTQ folks, you get 45 or 50% less applications. If it's from women, it's 44%. If it's Black folks or people of color, it's somewhere between the 50 and 44. So they have really, they produce like annual or semi-annual, biannual publications on diversity and inclusion. It's super rich in information.
Awesome, thank
Other
you.
sources that I'm realizing is there are a lot of like ad hoc research out there that takes a very macro perspective, so it's not going to be very applicable to the company or to any particular company, but it gives a really interesting way on how you might want to frame certain topics and how a company, any individual's companies may be contributing to that system. So like housing discrimination and credit, you know, if you work at a bank, what are your credit standards, right? So this gets a little bit external at that point, but there, I'll put my LinkedIn information in the chat if people want to reach out to me, because I've actually compiled a list of research on these things. In case you want to like start doing research on your own. Again, these are very external stuff, but for what it's worth, I've compiled a list at some point. So happy to share that.
Oh, that is massively appreciated. I do want to make sure, I know we're over time, but I just want to hit the last few things before we close out. So the last kind of step here is in training leadership, and this is where we're just stepping into this space now in this strategy flow here. So this is really, you know, leaders have such a huge place when it comes to influencing culture and what your company's doing, right? So looking at, be that pride leaders for ERGs, managers, hugely important, right? Especially when you're talking hiring managers, and then executives, right? So there's different approaches and ways that you would want to tailor that information across those different audiences. And then just to close here is that the update tools build awareness and train leadership. Those are ongoing, right? So you may get your first tool updated and then you say, cool, well, we got one piece updated. So that means that that's going to make building awareness a lot easier. So say like for us, that was our email signature tool, the creator tool. So we were able to say, awesome, let's get that done and updated so that when we go into these building awareness sessions, we can say, just go use that brand tool. And it's official and it's not asking people to go through some weird sideways way to do it. And then we're going to move forward to training leadership, but we're still always going to be looking back and going, okay, what next tools can we update? What new ways can we build awareness? How can we get this to reach people further? Now, who can we do with leadership? Okay, we're going to do managers first, or we're going to do pride leaders first, right? And so it's this kind of constant looping, growing thing once you get past that kind of initial, hey, what are we going to generally approach and do? But you may want to actually kind of take a look back at those other pieces too. You may learn new things. Things may change, right? You may reorg. It happens all the time. And then you go, okay, now who are the new leaders that we need to get on board? So just keep that in mind as you go forward. If anybody wants to connect and talk through this anymore, again, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help you think through the best way to bring this to your companies and groups. Oh, we got some raised hands. Let's grab those before we're done here. Okay, who?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not sure if it was me. I just wanted to ask a quick question, because one of the challenges we face in our firm is that we are huge and we have presence in a lot of countries. I'm currently based in Argentina, and one of our challenges is that our initiatives, sometimes they're not firm-wide because of regulations in each country. So I was wondering if you could maybe give me a few comments on how the strategy that you planned applied for Brazil, that you have an office there, or if it's US based, or did you face any challenges with other geographic locations?
So the strategy is global for us. So this is for HP as a global company looking at this within, because a lot of the groups that we were working with are global groups, right? A lot of supporting functions. But maybe Pedro, you could speak to the localization of the content just really quickly.
Yeah. So since we have local ERGs that we call BINs, Business Impact Networks, the strategy here was to make templates with the trainings that we had. So the local BINs could adapt them to the language that we had and then give them guidelines and things that they could work with to build the trainings to and adapt them to their regions. So there was trainings in Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese. I think there was in more than one country that speaks Spanish, right, Kelsey? I don't know if...
Yeah, we actually worked with colleagues to, Elliot helped with that. On the call, we actually worked to build out a few languages so that instead of providing a template, we provided a complete version with another language and speaker notes all in that language as well. So we had, we did that one for Portuguese, we did that one for Spanish. We had a Spanish for, so certain parts were changed, and then we had examples for Catalan as well, and then, or for Catalonian, and then we had a Mexican Spanish, and then I don't know if we adapted it for the Costa Rican Spanish, but we tried to get a range too, because the language doesn't necessarily mean that it's locally applicable.
Yeah. I don't know if
Hopefully that answered some level of your questions.
Yeah, and I don't remember if we did for other languages than Portuguese and Spanish. I don't think we got to do French.
We didn't get French or German yet, but those are on our docket.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is there any other raised hand? I know it's going to cut us off here really soon. Anyway, but thank you everyone so much. This was so wonderful. This is something that means so much to us, and so we're so glad that everybody is also passionate about this and learned something from this, or is able to take something back to their company to drive change. So really, truly, bottom of hearts, thank you. Thank you for your engagement, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you all. Happy to share this with you.
I think we can just, if we close out Pedro, I think it'll end.
Okay.